Hey folks. Okay, so I think it's been about I guess going on 3 years since my last video, and I'll say a lot's transpired and a lot of things have happened, but I'll explain all in another video. I'll do that later. But uh, greetings, and I hope everybody's doing well today, and that everybody's all right. Hopefully everybody's good. And today I'm gonna be doing a video on the Israelites, or this is gonna be a video series I plan on doing, but it is called, I'm calling it Israelites of Asia and China. So probably the first set of the series, or video in the series. But yeah, I'm just gonna get right into it. So Israelites of Asia, China specifically, and we're gonna be going over the Yushi and Tokari tribes, the Subashi culture, and the Jushi slash Gushi people. I'm probably gonna put this back because it's probably a little loud. Apologies, but the Yushi and the Tokari, the Subeshi culture, and the Jushi Gushi people of Asia. Hopefully the next slide works. Okay, there we go. Now here's a disclaimer. This video is strictly for those who have an idea and relative knowledge on who the Israelites actually are, as well as those who have an open mind and know their actual identity. That should be pretty self-explanatory who I'm gearing this video towards so again, disclaimer. Again, this is both for the Israelites who call upon the name Haya Haya, and as well as the proselytes who call upon the same name of Hayah Hayah. Just keeping that in mind. Again, that's the disclaimer. So I'm just gonna keep going. Like I was just saying, this is for those Israelites and proselytes who know and call upon the true name of the Ishi Eloha, Haya Haya, I am. See strong, see that. See Strong's Concordance H1961 in Exodus 3:14. Any other name is false and blaspheming his great name. So just as our ancestors did, and even as a lot of us do now, the only two names, not even two names, the only name, forgive me, pardon me, the only name that is true would be this name, you know. Now, if you feel any type of way or disgruntled by the first two lines of the slide, leave now and disregard this video. I'm not gonna do any arguing here. I don't have time for debating and all that. This is the research I've compiled and everything I've learned over the years from teachers I've been shown, I've been introduced to, and I've learned about, who've taught me many things. And I it's not so much I think, but I know that this has much meaning and it is truthful in the way I understand it. It makes sense to me. That's why I'm saying it. So seriously, if you can't come to agree with the first two slides, this video isn't for you. You can just disregard and leave. No need to fight, waste energy unless you're an agent purposely just doing that. You could leave. Anyway, next slide. Disclaimer continued. If you made it past that last slide without feeling disgruntled, here are two more warnings. Cognitive dissonance. Mental disturbance people feel when their beliefs and/or actions are challenged or contradicted by new information or stimuli. This happening results in discomfort, disengagement, and sometimes retaliatory actions and ideas. Tends to happen with Japheth's children often. Search H6601 Patha. Aside from being spacious and open or wide, it also means to be simple, be deceived, naive, or to deceive, persuade, and seduce. Ooh, seduce. This is a part of Noah's blessing to the Japheth. So, the reason why at that last part is the fact that we often know who rewrites history and why much of history is the way it is. And that's actually going to the second point. But back to the first point, it's the fact that again, this is information. If you find this upsetting, or if you're feeling some type of way, not analyzing it from a logical point of view, not actually thinking about it, but feeling it first and foremost, you need to pay attention and at least consider what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, the reason why I have these two disclaimers, this part right here, no cognitive dissonance. Again, I'm not going to read it again because that's a mouthful, but you can see it on screen. You can read it for yourself. We're moving on to the second one. Societal conditioning, the sociological process of training individuals in a society to respond in a manner generally approved by the society in general and peer groups within society. Manifestations of social conditioning can be categorized as social patterns and structures such as education, entertainment, nationalism, religion, popular culture, and family life. Remember that most of what we learned is revised history. So the reason why I have these 2 points here in this second slide, the disclaimer, is the fact that these go hand in hand in regards to how we often view new information or information that's been hidden, suppressed, or that's currently out in the open, hiding in plain sight, and also information that's been fed to us, which could also be misinformation, following agendas or misinformation introduced by hidden councils, hidden peoples, pushing an agenda. Get what I mean? So these two go hand in hand. It's cognitive dissonance and societal conditioning. If the information you find in this video or any future video I do plan on making, if you feel some type of way about it, again, that mental disturbance, cognitive dissonance, and also again societal conditioning, you are conditioned to think in a certain manner, especially pairing this with cognitive dissonance. These two go hand in hand into how many of us see our worldview. And I hate to put Japhet's children on blast, but I mean, y'all are notorious for doing this. I'm not saying that Edom doesn't do it or Moab doesn't. They do, but Japhet. I mean, again, the social patterns and structures I just mentioned: education, entertainment, nationalism, religion, popular culture. They just take a look. You could put two together and you can see where I'm going with this. But these two disclaimers, if you feel some type of way about this, you just leave right now. It's up to you. I'm not forcing you to watch this video. It's up to you. But I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna debate. Not doing any of that. That's y'all can do that on your own time. Yeah. Anyway, now evidence of ancient Israelites in Asia. This video presentation is a showcase. Forgive me. This video presentation is to showcase and share information and findings of our ancient Israelite history over on our homeland of Asia. The true land is Siam, Shem being a title, Siam being his actual name, courtesy of Lex Will. Particularly in this case, we'll be taking a closer look into historical sources that can be connected together to provide a net of truth. These sources are both from historical books published a while ago and also very recent ones. Next slide. Inspiration for this topic, primarily Lex Will. He's been making several videos documenting this topic and uncovering many of the hidden histories. I'll link his channel in the description below. Check out his videos on YouTube and donate to him, as he really does put in hours of effort into research. I had learned of this topic from him. I haven't seen nobody else touch on this topic aside from giving credit where it's due. So shout out Lex, giving credit where it's due. He put me onto this, and not directly, but again, he made a video about it a while back, and I was like, let me look into this a little deeper, or let me just take a look into it. And my sources for this video, these are books and essays right here that I found online, and also he's shown videos. The British Israelites, the Book of Esdras, the Lost Tribes and the Saxons of the East and of the West, the Kingdom of the Dayushi. I think that's a book, or I can't remember which one, but I have it saved. It's PDF. Ancient, liter- Ancient literary conceptions of Eastern Scythian ethnography from the 7th to the 2nd century BC. More sources. Wikipedia, Anabasis Studia Classica et Orientalia. Yeah, I done goofed on that. Jatlin.com, BritishIsrael.ca, and MetMuseum.org. Yep. The split in Assyrian captivity. So, in both books, the British Israelites and the lost tribes and the Saxons of the east and of the west, it stated that the Israelites that were placed in Assyrian captivity had at some point separated. This separation, though, appears to have either happened after they had seized or captured the land of Bactria, or when they were displaced by northern barbarian tribes taking their lands. Okay, I'm about 11 minutes in. Now, it may be too small to see on screen for y'all, but I'll go and read some of this off. Bactria seized by the Sakai, or the Sakai. As it states, Bactria was seized by the Sakai, or the Sakai peoples. Those very peoples being identified with the Israelites by Greek historians. They were often named together with other Scythian tribes of which they held no relation to, more or less purposely hidden in history. That's just my opinion right there, that last little bit. Should have put that, but yeah. Now, looking at the page. Now, Darius's expedition against the Scythians were about 500 BC, and 1,000 years before that brings us to the time of Moses. Quote, our Scythian ancestors, Colonel Galler, page 5. Strabo, book 1, I'm going to assume chapter 2, page. No, probably book 1, chapter 2, page 27, informs us that the ancient Greeks classed all northern nations which they were familiar under the one name of Scythians, or according to Homer, nomads. Pliny says that the Sakai were among the most distinguished people of Scythia. Distinguished, Strabo again says, and the sheep-feeding Sakai, a people of Scythian race, but they inhabited wheat-producing Asia. Truly, they were a colony of the nomads, a righteous race. Now, to take a step back and go into a little tidbit about that is the fact that, out of all the nations on earth in this world that no Israelites are, we were supposed to honestly live up to that moniker, the title of being a righteous people. I mean, it's literally one of our duties, to be righteous, especially in the eyes of the Most High, and to help and teach and lead the other nations to righteousness. So it kind of makes sense on where they're going with this. Again, among the most distinguished people of Scythia, as well as they were a colony of the nomads, a righteous race. Sounds like Israel to me, To continue, the Sakai or the Sakai were an important branch of the Scythian nation, which we know is not true because they're not Scythians. Above named tribes known as the Sakai by the Aryans and the Kumri by the Semitic tribes are no other than the remnants of 10-tribe Israel who settled in Britain. Sharon Turner, in his History of the Anglo-Saxons, declares that they were a German or Teutonic, that is, a Gothic or Scythian tribe. So, as we just read in the previous paragraphs, that the Greeks, they knew that any people living north of them, they essentially classified as either barbarians or nomads, or people of that group. So more or less, they could have been a variety of different nations living over them, in terms of living in the north that held no relation or were tightly related. But the fact that the Sakai or the Saka people, I'm just gonna say Sakai to keep it short, they were distinguished amongst them, and they were known as a righteous race. Also, sheep herders or sheep feeding. We're shepherds for a reason. We're known as shepherds throughout history, so keep that in mind. Of various Scythian nations which have been recorded, the Sakai or Sakai are the people from whom the descent of the Saxons may be inferred with the least violation of probability. They seized Bactriana, and the most fertile part of Armenia, from which them derived the name of Sakasena. That some of the divisions of this people were really called Sakasuna, or the sons of the Sakai. Hmm. So, reading that part right there, you can see where they started developing the name Saxon from. From either Sakasuna or Sakasana. Going down to later part of the yellow. Or actually, hold up. Going back up, the name Sakasena, which they gave to the part of Armenia they occupied this earth, is nearly the same sound as Saxonia. Now, the author of the Lost Ten Tribes and the Saxons of the East says there is indication that the Sakai, if they took not their name from the house of Isaac, were at least connected with Isaac's descendants. Dr. Morgan, an ancient pillar of stones of Scotland, speaking of the sky, says, okay, we have reason to believe that a tribe of the same people denominated Ari by Tacitus also conveyed the name into Germany through Thrace, which was called Aria, according to Stephanus. Herodotus says that the Medians were Ari, and we can suppose that the Sakai might adopt and be known by the same name. That the people here called Aryans were Hebrews. However, it is evident from the name of the cities. So that little last tidbit is a bit interesting due to the fact that again it's often just names being mixed up and tossed around. But going back into the meat above in the aforementioned paragraphs, they were being called the Sakai, or Sakai peoples. The Greeks had called them that, because more or less they lumped everybody who lived over them in the north as barbarians, when reality was probably a bit different, knowing that, again, like I just said, they were distinguished and they were known as a righteous people of sheep herders or shepherds, so keep that in mind, because again, like one of my points, purposely hidden throughout history and often just tied to a bunch of different people who didn't really have anything to do with them, They weren't Germans. They weren't the Teutonics. They weren't any of those people. And also, they were called Scythians, but they weren't actually Scythians at all. They were just grouped along with them because they all lived in that same general area. Because no Greeks, trying to keep language appropriate. Next slide. A little tidbit or a bit of very, very brief history of Bactria. It was a land originally. Okay, yeah, there's a typo right there. Whoops. It was a land originally inhabited, I should put that, by Iranians who struggled as a small kingdom at first against nomadic Tyrrhenians. It was an early center of Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism. That was a long word. In the 5th and 4th BC period, it is mentioned by Darius the Great as one of the provinces of the Achaemenid Empire in the later 4th century BC. That had been a center for Iranian resistance against Macedonian invaders led by Alexander, but fell. After the death of Alexander the Great, Seleucus, pretty sure I'm saying that right, Seleucus had taken the province for his territory, this occurring in the 3rd century BC. Diodotus I, the governor of Bactria, had declared Bactria independent from the Seleucids, thus establishing, from what they say, is no Greek Bactria, or Indo-Greek Bactria, so I have to research that a little more, but very brief. During the second century BC, it was conquered by the Parthian Empire, and later in the 1st century AD, the Yushi had established the Kushan Empire. Just a very, very brief history of bacteria, sourced from Wikipedia. So if you want to go look it up yourselves, you can. It's over there. You can see it because I think around in the 4th century AD, the Sasanian Empire basically came in and took, I think, the western portions of Bactria, or invaded the western portions of the Kushan Empire, and you had all that going on. So it's been more or less been just passed through a lot of hands, to say in the least. So very brief history of Bactria, or Bactriana, either one. Just gonna keep it Bactria for now to keep it simple. The differing names of Israelites in exile. In this book, The British Israelites, it goes on to list the different kinds of names for Israelites in exile. It also states how of the many that were led away in captivity, some were able to escape from this fate, had fled westward, but it is also known that they did indeed flee eastward as well, with some also remaining in Central Asia. Meaning, this is just my idea, and also the book pretty much says it at the same time, so or it says the same thing, but it's like the ones who went westward went through Bactria, or went to Bactria and left Bactria, continuing westward, going through Armenia, then essentially getting to Britain. So those Saxons would become, well, the Sakai would become the Saxons, and those Saxons would become the British, Negro British at that. So boom, west. Whereas the other ones who went east and also stayed in the east, would be the Yushi people. Getting back to the point, the ones who had went eastward would be found in the lands such as China and India. The bulk of the captives being brought over to the Americas. Also, to keep that in mind, because I'm still researching and trying to figure that out. But yes, though it could be more than likely the case that they had inhabited those lands before said exile, as they had established some kingdoms that were conquered. So, meaning they could have established those said kingdoms and were moved into exile afterwards. Because I mean, history, or the timeline as we currently understand and know it, has been severely manipulated and altered and revised. Again, much of it is revisionist history, so it's hard to compile a coherent timeline that isn't a jumbled fucking mess. It's not all messy and whatnot. Now, looking at the page I took a picture of here, going to the yellow. If then they were the Israelites, we see at once how they came to be called the Sakai or the Sakai, for we know that they were called Beth Isaac in their own country shortly before captivity. Amos, verse 7. Amos chapter 7, verse 16. Apologies. Now therefore hear thou the word of the Ishi. Thou sayest prophecy. I can't. I suck at pronouncing. Prophecy not against Israel, and drop not thy word against the house of Isaac. Turn to Genesis 21, verse 12, which is repeated in. Yeah, that's New Testament right there. Next one, Romans 11, verse 7, Hebrews 11, verse 18. The promise to Abraham was that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. The Israelites were never called after Isaac prior to the captivity, but Amos first mentions them after the house of Isaac, a few years before their captivity. Notice too that in the right is the Oriental pronunciation of the word Isaac, with the emphasis is on the last syllable and not on the first Isaac or Isaac. Isaac or I think it's Isaac. 27,280 men placed in the remote part of Assyria were not likely to remain long without making an effort to regain their liberty. Hence, it is extremely probable that soon after their removal into captivity, they began to escape, and traveling westwards were known historically as Sakas, Sakai, Saxon, Kumri, and Gamiri. Reverend M. Selman, himself a Jew, probably proxy. No, let me not say that because I don't know what he looks like. So Okay, that is just me being a prick. Apologies. But himself a Jew, in his work Resources in the East, an important account of the 10 tribes. Page 2021 states that many of the people did not go into captivity, but evaded the calamity, going off with their flocks and turning nomads, and that their chief or prince whom they appointed could muster 120,000 horse and 100,000 feet. The above will explain that why it is that the British, alias the Israelites, passing through an Aryan country, and historically commercially associated with an Aryan people, have been mistaken for Aryan, though they themselves were in reality Shemitic, having been sifted as corn is sifted in a sieve. Hmm. That last one is interesting because they could be referring to those Aryan country. I'm not sure what time period that is because they could be referring to the proxies in terms of the Aryans, because the only part that really does make actual sense in his valid is that they were in reality Shemitic. We know that Shemites and Shemitic people have afros. They're Afro-Asiatic. Afro and Asian features put together, Afro-Asiatic people. Boom. Shemitic, which the Aryans are not Shemitic, so we're gonna ignore that. Next slide. More names in exile. Now this I found on I think this was BritishMuseum.ca, one of my sources. I'll read it off. The first is the famous rock inscription of Behustan on the road from Hamadan, Ecbatana to Babylon, which provided Sir Henry Rawlinson a century ago with the key to the translation or Syrian cuneiform writing. The text in three languages: Persian, which is Shem, Susian, not too sure, Babylonian, a mix, includes a list of the peoples over whom Darius ruled, and among these were the Sakai or Sakai in Central Asia. In both the Persian and Susian version, these are called Sakai, but in the Babylonian version, the same people are called the Gemiri, translated to Sumerians. This seems to have been a puzzle to the experts, for King and Thompson, who published the test, added a footnote saying the word Gemiri is clear upon the rock. Apologies. A second trilingual inscription on a thin sheet of gold was published in the Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society in 1926 by Sidney Smith of the British Museum. In it, Darius proclaims that his kingdom extended from Scythia, which is beyond Sogdiana, to Kush, Ethiopia, and from India to Sardis. I know Sogdiana borders Bactria. It's usually right on the border of Bactria, right next to it. So that keep that in mind. And I'm not entirely sure what Sardis is. Back to the read. My bad. And the Persian and Elamite, Elam, Shem, keep that in mind. In the Persian and Elamite versions, the original for Scythia, and Saqqah, but in the Babylonian it is once again Gemera. Finally, an inscription in the tomb of I keep butchering that. And Darius again lists the nations over whom he ruled. But here, three different groups of Scythians are mentioned. Each time they are called Saqqah in the Persian and Elamite text, but all three times they're called Gemera in the Babylonian translation. The simplest, and in fact the only way to explain this, is that the Persians knew that all the people they called Saqqah were known as Gemera in Babylonia and in Syria. But since the Assyrians included the Sumerians in Asia Minor among the Gemera, they must all originally have been the same people. That they were in fact Israelites is evident from the fact that they all made their first appearance immediately after the Israelite exile. Huh. And in exactly those places where the Israelite exile and in in exactly those places where the Israelites vanished. Furthermore, both names can be derived from names for Israel. Bada bing, bada boom. Look at that. So, they essentially appeared right when they had vanished. These different groups of people. And I don't know if this happened later on or probably not, but at the same time, nah. I'm not gonna say that because it's Psalms 83. You know, the whole "Let Israel be no more, let the name be no more in remembrance." I gotta look back after I read that, but just keep that in mind that purposely being hidden throughout history. Again, the fact that it says what they had, yeah, they made their first appearance immediately after the Israelite exile, and those exactly in exactly those places where the Israelites were exiled. So it kind of makes sense in exactly those places where Israelites vanished. I mean, you put two and two together, it makes perfect sense. You know. On to the next slide. All right, let's get into the meat because I know y'all been probably waiting for a little bit long, a bit of a time. You know. Hold on. Okay, had a bit of a mishap right there. Whoops. Okay. Yeah. If I can crap, my apologies. Ooh, pardon for the language. Okay. Now on to the Yushi people. I had a. Okay, I'm just gonna say I had to handle something real quick in terms of the video. My apologies, folks. So you're gonna see the cut in the video, but anyway, on to the Yushi people. Okay, so the Yushi. I'm gonna go off the Wikipedia article first. Looking right at it, the Yushi Chinese pinyin or Chinese characters. Pinyin, I think, is the romanization in terms of I don't know. Anyway, not entirely sure, but it's pronounced the Yushi, the Rushi, or the Rushi, or the Yuchi, Juchi, or Juchi, were an ancient people first described in Chinese histories as nomadic pastoralists living in an arid grassland area between the western part of the modern Chinese province of Gansu during the first millennium BC. After a major defeat at the hands of the Xiongnu in 176 BC, the Yushi split into two groups migrating in different directions. The Greater Yushi, the Dai Yushi, and the Lesser Yushi, the Xiao Yushi. This started a complex domino effect that radiated in all directions, and in the process set the course of history for much of Asia for centuries to come. That last part's gonna be a big one because I plan on doing another video about that. Definitely. But you notice how it says they don't really explain what directions they went into. You know, they don't really explain that. So getting back to this, or now to the points. Notice how it is mentioned that they were split and began migrating in different directions, ones who went west and those who stayed east. It is more than likely that since they were pushed out of their native lands by the Xiongnu, the Yushi migrated and seized the lands of Bactria after this event occurring. Part of that group going on to be the Saxons and later the Britons. Keep in mind, I think I said that twice, the Xiongnu were known to be an Indo-European, Eurasian, and Caucasoid peoples and were barbarians. He says from what I've seen. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, yeah. So on to the next. I could be wrong. At least about the Xiongnu. Oh, let me click on this again. Whoops. Now, examples of migrations. Now, taking a look here, one, the things you can easily notice is the fact that you can see Alexandria Eshe, which is just one of the cities of Alexander. So, safe to say he more definitely had conquered or was in Bactria at the time, made it past the Amudarya, the Oxus River, can't forget that. Now the minor cities here in Bactria, but look at that though. Boom, he's right there. And he's again right there, Alexandria in the Caucasus, right there, boom, bam. So safe to say he definitely earlier I did say he did conquer Bactria, so it was conquered. So boom, he had two satellite cities right here. Damn. Now we can look at the migrations of the Yushi through Central Asia from 176 BC to 30 AD. So look at that. Got kicked up by the Xiongnu, then got kicked up by the Wusun. Sogdiana right there, literally right there. So Bactria, Sogdiana is on the border. Parthia right there, so bang boom bop. Was moved up by the Toyin, then boom, they settled, migrated, conquered Bactria, bada bing. Then they ended up in India. So you can see the line of the migration, or how they kept getting displaced or moving through. And also, don't forget you got the islands right here, barbarians, islands. Yeah. Anyway, now moving on to a lot of texts. I think this is from the Orientalia book I found. Ooh, pardon me. The Yushi and Tokari history. You see how the Greeks had assigned the name Asianoi to the Yushi. Why would they do that? They knew exactly who the Yushi were, as did the Parthians, and so did all the other nations in that time. Note, the Tokari usually always being found around the Yushi, so much so that they were inseparable. I should have put period there, whoops. Now we're going to read a bit from this page. But again, the Greeks had called them the Asianoi. Going back to a separate point about the word Semite or Semitic, Afro-Asiatic is what it means. And meaning you have the Greeks literally essentially calling them Asianoi or just Asians. And that keeping a simple framework, Asians, I mean, they were calling them the Asians. The Yushi people were being called the Asians. We know that the Yushi people are the Israelites. Well, I'm thought at by the end of the slideshow that it's going to be easy to follow. Like I'm gonna paint it through. So yeah, but I mean they're literally calling them Asians. Like come on. So now reading the page. The second tradition is reproduced in Pompeius Trogus, who states that Bactria, spelled with a K, and Sogdiana were captured by Scythian tribes of the Sarukei and Asia. Trogus is perhaps closer to the original forms. He says nothing about crossing the river, nor does he mention the Tokhari among the nomads who invaded Bactria and Sogdiana, but he knows the Tokhari and the context in which they are mentioned testifies in favor of greater proximity of the Trogus account to Apollodoros, and the later one to Chinese evidence. Trogus' historical context is the following: Parthian king Phraates II fought with certain Scythians who then appeared in the sight of the Parthians and who came from afar. He was killed fighting them, and his successor Artabanos continued fighting them and attacked the Tokhari. These events took place in about 128 to 123 BC, at the time when the Yushi established their dominance over Bactria Daxia. The changes witnessed by Shenqian in 128 BC. The course of these events can be reconstructed something like the following: the clash between Parthian king and militant Scythians was the first encounter of the Parthians with Asianoi, the Yushi, and the attack of his successor on the Tokhari was the invasion of the Parthians in Daxia, which is Bactria. Daxia, the name given to Bactria by the Chinese or the Sinites. More than likely, again, this is a prop. Who are the Chinese? The Chinese who were calling them at the time. I'll say that. The territory of the Yushi. The conquering pressure of the Parthians on the east before and after these events was always carried out on the outskirts of Bactria, and according to coin evidence, Margiana was Albinos' offensive base at the time. I imagine Margiana was a city built up by the Parthians. Why then does the source of Strabo and Ptolemaios, Ptolemaios, that name Ptolemy, Ptolemaeus referred to the Tokhari as nomads who, along with the Asioi, or the Asianoi, or in this case they're calling them the Ayatoi, seized Bactria. I think the following explanation, Poseidonios knew that the name Tokhari or the Tokaroi appeared in Bactria with the arrival there of the Asioi, and without clear understanding of the subtleties of Bactrian history, simply included the Tokhari into the general list of nomad conquerors. So they didn't really understand the history of Bactria to give proper understanding of who the Tokhari were, which we're gonna learn as we go on through this. Subsequently, the name Ishioi Yushi disappeared in Bactria altogether, or disappeared in Bactria, although the Chinese traditionally continued to use that name, to use that designation when referring to the Kushan state, which was founded by the descendants of Bactrian Yushi. The name of the Tokhari also or became so deeply rooted in Bactria that it gradually completely replaced the former name of the country. So right now they're saying that the essentially name, the Tokhari name, essentially replaces the name of Bactria or the Bactrian country. It just replaces the name entirely. And we know, or we're going to learn that the Tokhari are one and the same as the Yushi, and that the Chinese traditionally continue to use that name for the Kushan state, who are the Yushi, or the Yushi who created the Kushan state, the Kushan Empire, the kingdom. Already Ptolemaeus, drawing from the Mace Titanus, most likely around the turn of AD, talks about the Tokhari, who were a large people group in Bactria and were largely involved in agriculture. So they were a very agricultural people. If they're an agricultural people, they're not going to be barbarians because they would have no need to just go around, raiding. There's they're not hunter gatherers. They're literally an agricultural people. Come on, you know. There's exceptions to that with being like for example the Danes and all that, but well we know the Danes are literally the tribe of Dan, so that's neither here or there. Point being, not exactly barbarian if they're largely involved in agriculture. Quoting literally word for word, largely involved in agriculture doesn't really sound barbarian, and let me just get into that later. It is from the name of this people group that the medieval designation of this country, Tokharistan, originates in China. I'm gonna look. Well, not originate. There was a period right there, so not in China, but Tokharistan. So I'm gonna look that up later on, or if anybody wants to look that up, they can. But Tokharistan, keep note of that. On to the next one. Now, the Tokhari being the Yushi connection. A colophon to a Central Asian Buddhist manuscript from the late 8th century AD, pretty sure it's somewhat AD, states that it was translated into Old Turkic from Sanskrit via Tuiri language. In 1907, the Mills Sieg and Frederick W.K. Mueller proposed that Tuiri was a name for the newly discovered language of the Turpan area. Sieg and Mueller, reading this name as Toxri, connected it with the ethnonym Tokoroi, ancient Greek. Ptolemy, don't forget that name, courtesy of Lex. In 2nd century AD, itself taken from the Indo-Iranian Old Persian Shem, Tuksari, Khotanese, Tahvara, and Sanskrit Tokhara, and proposed the name Tokharian, German Tokarisk. Ptolemy's Tokaroi are often associated by modern scholars with the Yushi of Chinese historical accounts. So they're telling you that the Tokaroi are the Yushi. They're one and the same. They're literally found together. Always. They knew, fucking, pardon my language, apologies. But Ptolemy, boom. Ptolemy's Tokaroi, Greek. That's a name for us. And the Yushi, just, come on. who founded the Kushan Empire. It is now clear that these people actually spoke Bactrian. Mm, not sure about that. An Eastern Iranian language rather than the language of the Tarim manuscripts. So the name Tocharian is considered a misnomer. Nevertheless, it remains the standard term for the language of the Tarim Basin manuscripts. So that last part right there, it's kind of stupid. I mean, Bactrian is just essentially another form of Greek, and they weren't speaking Greek; they were speaking Tocharian. Otherwise, why would they have manuscripts written in that language separately than Bactrian Greek? And it doesn't really add up. So that part right there is just added for a bit of misinformation. This is my opinion, but it's very misinformative to just add that last little piece right there. So disregard that. At least my opinion. It's why would they have Tocharian be speaking Greek? Now this is common language, and it's just it adds on layered confusion that's unnecessary. Next one, as we have just mentioned, the people who emerged as Tocharians in Western sources are often equated with a branch of the Yushi of Chinese sources. So I mean, it's literally another one. I'm pretty sure this is from one of the other PDFs. Again, I have all the sources up, so if y'all want to go back and look at them, you can. I think this is the history of the Dayushi. I think it's that book. But anyway, I'm gonna read it again. As we have just mentioned, the people who emerged as Tocharians in Western sources are often equated with a branch of the Yushi of Chinese sources, who were first driven who were driven first from the Gansu borderlands by the Xiongnu, and then further west by the Wusun, arriving at the Oxus, and going on to conquer Bactria and establish the Kushan Empire. Narayan argues that once one accepts the equation Tocharian equals Yushi, then one is forced to follow both the Chinese historical sources, which for him would propel the Yushi back to at least the 7th century BC. So the Chinese, they know, and the geographical reference of the first site of historical location Gansu to the conclusion that they had lived there from times immemorial. Now we could have this whole, or not we could have, more than likely the Assyrian captivity happened at a much different time than what's clearly depicted, and we know that the timeline is currently being revised or has been revised for some time now. But if we're going off the Chinese historical sources, no, once we accept that equation, because the equation makes perfect sense, it literally does. They've been there from time immemorial, meaning going back to literally the times of more than likely Abraham and Isaac, times immemorial before the Israelite lineage actually came into being. So this is just confirming that if they have been there for the longest, that sounds like again Israelites originating and being in Asia, specifically, and in China and in northern India, just Central Asia and Eastern in general. They're just coming from Asia, and hence the name Afro-Asia, or hence the term Semitic, Afro-Asiatic. And again, I just showed you in the last slide, Greeks, you had Greeks calling them the Asioi, which is also known as the Asianoi, Asian. And then, I mean, come on, you just put two and two together and it makes perfect sense. Like, you'd have to just, you would, I don't know. I'm gonna finish this first, but again, it's evidence is right here. Narayan infers that they had been there at least since the Kizia culture of 2000 BC. Crap. And probably even earlier in the Yangshao culture of the Neolithic. I'm gonna research that because holy, that has big ramifications right there. This would render the Tocharians as virtually native to the Gansu and earlier than the putative spread, yeah, and earlier than the putative spread of the Neolithic to Shenzhen, And Narain goes so far as to argue that the Indo-Europeans themselves originally dispersed from this area westwards. Now that last part right there, disregard that, because that, at least in my opinion, no, no. Indo-Europeans been the Yamnaya, northern barbaric tribes. Ignore that. Nah. Anyway, all the meat right there. The Tokharians being native to the Gansu, and the Tokharians being a branch of the Yushi China, or of the Yushi people. Bada boom! Like, look at that! Look at that! Okay, next, the Yushi on maps. Now, I'm pretty sure I got this from Jatlin.com. That was the source for this image. I'm gonna blow it up in the next one. Saka or Sakaz is the name used in Middle Persian, and Ottoman Empire to its extent in the Scyth or other maps. Sanskrit sources for the Scythians, a large group of Eurasian nomads on the Eurasian steppe, or not steppe, on the Eurasian steppe. Speaking Eastern Iranian languages, modern scholars usually use the term Saka to refer to the Iranians of the Eastern steppe and the Tarim Basin. You can clearly see that they existed during the age of Roman Edom Empire and Parthia, their name being clearly distinct from all other barbaric peoples. Blew up the map even bigger on the screen, so let's take a look at that and get the mouse on here. So you got the Uralic tribes, the Balto Slavs, the Scythians right here, Magna Germania, barbarians, Dacia. I'm gonna look that up. The Roman Empire, boom, Arabia. You got Parthia, the Middle Kingdoms of India, the Turkic tribes, so the tribes of the north, Japheth, probably Japheth, Edom, Samartia, not sure what that is, Charasmia, Margiana, Sogdiana, Bactria, Indo-Scythians, so probably Ham Japhet, maybe. And look at that, Yushi, right there. Spelled differently, but it's the same name. U, forgive me, Yuezhi. Yeuzh. I mean, it's literally the same name. It's just literally just you flip those, and it's the same people, same area, same name, same people. Again, I think there's also like an Indian website I found this on, so they know. They know. Next, now we're going to get into the three distinct classes. At the bottom, it is said that the Tokhari, the Yushi, had three distinct orders in their tribes: one sedentary farming component, one dominant nomadic, and lastly, a priestly order that is regarded as its own tribe. Who else has their people structured in such a fashion? Could it be? Again, this is just my theory, or it just at least to me it makes sense. So just my theory right here. This last bit. Could it be Israelites, Judeans, and Levites? Maybe. Now to read the text, because it's probably too small on screen. Apologies. Tianshan, this area was historically populated by sedentary agriculturalists such as the Tokri and the Four Tokri. According to Uyghur and Sogdian records, 9th and 10th centuries AD, 5 Tragora, according to Khotan Saka records, 8th and 10th centuries AD, Thokar with options according to Tibetan records, 5th and 9th century AD. So this is literally the medieval period, or early medieval period, referring to them as an ancient people who grouped together Chinese erected canals from the Tarim. The roots of this word usage in this region most likely go back to the era of the Yushi dominion in Kashgaria, before the Huns' supremacy. So got kicked out by the Huns, and that's how it seems, or they moved before they came. The Tokhari appeared in the areas along the route taken by the Yushi during their migration to Western Central Asia. So meaning they were moving from the east into Central Asia. So it's just another point saying that again they came from Well, we're from East Asia. We descend from them. So East Asia, East and Central West Asia, or not Central Asia. Apologies. Thus, it is considered that their name is contained in the designation of Fergana, the area of an ancient sedentary culture which is recovered from the Chinese Daiyuan as Taxwa. Hard to pronounce. I should note that I exclude from linking the names that are considered to be Tokari simply on the basis of phonetic similarity with the ethnonym Tokari. I don't know about that, buddy. Or no, he actually has, but I did a little, I actually researched that a little bit. Well, maybe it's maybe because they change things up. An example would be the Assyrian Toharu. The same can be said in relation to linking the ethnonym Yushi due to its highly hypothetical phonetic reconstruction. Is it? Is it really? With well-known names such as the Massagette and the Scythians. So they know they're just trying to not say they do. These types of linkages are entirely improving hypotheses and a long way from the reality of the migration of tribes and peoples. I also think that linking Akkadian names Tukri and Guti to Tokari is simply an unreliable assumption. Hmm, maybe. Again, y'all can research this. Therefore, in all cases that we considered, the Tokari appear to be a sedentary adjunct to the nomadic Aishioi, the Yushi. So, I mean, they are a branch of the Yushi people. They are part of them. This is quite accurately illustrated in the words of Trogus. He pops up again. Regis Tokarium Asian or Asiani. Asiani kings of Tokari. Asian kings of Tokari. They keep calling them Asian. And I'm gonna stop right here because I'm gonna do a little bit of a back. It's like again, the Sakai or the Sakai or one of the progenitors for the Saxons who went on to be the British over in the West, the British Israelites, whereas the Saxon or the Sakai or the Israelites being the Sakai and the Sakai being the Israelites, and that the Yushi people are known as the Sakai or Sakai peoples would make them the Israelites of the East. And they're calling them Asian kings, the Asiani kings of Tokari. They keep calling them Asians. People of the Orient. Asians. The term Afro-Asiatic. They were Shemitic people. Sakai, Israelites. Sakai, Yushi, Israelites. Boom, bada bing. Saxons of the West, or Israelites of the West, the Saxons. Israelites of the East, the Yushi. Come on. Okay, where was I? Therefore, in all cases that we considered, the Tokari appeared to be sedentary adjunct to the nomadic Aishioi, the Yushi. This is quite accurately illustrated in the words of Trogus. Trogus Tokarum Asiani. Asiani kings, Asian kings of Tokari. Perhaps we can add here a remark by a commentator to a poem by Dionysios Perigetes. On that name. Some say that Tokari, if the last word is understood as three tribes, it seems that we have here a typical example of a complex society consisting of two main tribes, a normally dominant nomadic component, kings, and a sedentary farming component. The third component in such type of society is represented by a priestly corporation, which is also regarded as a tribe. It is the nomadic components such as royal Scythians or royal Sakas. Where else do you find that name Sakas? Where do you find that name? Didn't it not just say that they were a most distinguished people among the Scythians? A righteous race, a royal tribe. Again, that name Sakas. Where else do you get that name from? Yeah, I just told you, or I just said, I just shown y'all that Sakas are the Israelites, or that they're called Israelites, the Sakas, Sakai, Sakai people, the Saruke in some cases. Come on. It is the nomadic component such as the royal Scythians or the royal Sakas that always migrates, but the sedentary component remains settled on the spot. How can it not get? I kind of should just leave it here, but I have much more to show y'all. I have a lot more. I got about good another. I think I got like 30 slides. It's a lot. If you're not on board, and if you don't, if not, the pieces aren't coming together, then I'm gonna just keep going. Anyway, more Yushi equal Tokari proof. We're in the first page, and the name. Oh, this name in the form of Tuholu came into use in the 4th century AD, and as already mentioned, the Chinese knew that Daxia Tahia was the more ancient form of the same name. It appears to be a very strange picture. 141 BC, Bactria acts as an independent state, but already in 128 BC, Zheng Qian, who visited Bactria himself, did not hear about any Bactrians, but only talks about the Tokari. So it sounds like Bactria just might. It, mm, this is just a theory, but it sounds like that name could literally just legit be made up or a placeholder name again, because Greeks, especially the children of Javan, are known for rewriting a lot of history, and they do a lot of this. So it could be. I mean, he says he ain't seen no Bactrians. He only saw the Tokari. Come on, something isn't adding up, and this is back in 128 BC, according to the timeline that we know of it, by this dude Zhang Qian. Zhang Qian, who visited himself, who saw the place. How can this be explained? In a period of maximum 10 years, did a complete change of the settled urban population of the state take place? Some scholars think that is exactly what happened. It may be that before Bactria was conquered by the Aishoi, the Yushi, the Tokari were already settled in Bactria as a sedentary agriculturalist people around 135 BC. These Tokari went there in a different and separate way from the Aishoi, the Yushi, and took possession of the country with the agreement of the Bactrian Greeks after the latter had gone over the Hindu Kush into northern India that they conquered. Huh. So again, in northern India, that's what it was also there. Of course, this entire intricate story is pure fiction of contemporary scholars. Why would it be fictitious to think that maybe that there weren't any Bactrian Greeks at all? Perhaps, you know, possibly not, or their influence wasn't as important as it's seen now. Again, we know they hide history and that they often alter the course of events, or they have many things hidden. We know they do this. I mean, the Council of Psalms 83, and they, we know they do this. Therefore, another hypothesis was suggested. Zankian, having reached the Yushi in the west, decided that Bactria, the country where they lived, was a semi-mythical country, Daxia, placed by the Chinese on the western fringes of the Ecumen in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC. But even this suggestion is clearly far-fetched. In Zankian's description of Daxia, there is not a single hint that he perceived the country as some kind of fairyland. So it sounds like they're essentially just gaslighting this old explorer into thinking that, nah, what you see, it wasn't that. He's wrong. Despite him literally writing the first-hand account and saying that, hey, yeah, this place is real. I don't see any Bactrians. I just see the Tokari. You know, I don't see. I don't. Yeah. So this place is actually Daxia. So I don't. Nah. There's no Bactria. There's no Bactrians. No, they're just essentially just gaslighting. I'm saying, nah. You just make that shit up. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. When describing this country and when describing this country and other Central Asian regions, Zankian's aspiration attempted to convey their true phonation and as accurately as possible, but in the absence of another convincing explanation, specialists generally adopted this hypothesis. So they're just basically saying he just kind of just essentially made this up, or he's just making shit up. So we're gonna ignore that. The same Chinese sources that talk about the Yushi migration from Gansu inform us that not all the Yushi had went to the west. Some of them, called the lesser Yushi, stayed in the Gansu and mixed with local Tibetans. Here, having retreated to the mountains of Nanshan and the area of Lake Koko-Nor, they played an active role even in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Can the Tokhari be found here as well? Undoubtedly. According to Ptolemaios, that fucking name. Again, so it's like, so this guy, this Chinese dude, gives a first-hand account of him meeting the Tokhari and Bactrians, saying that he just says that there is no Bactrians. I just see the Tokhari. That kind of makes you question, like, okay, we saw, and I think the past 2 slides ago, that in the past 2 slides, it stated that once you accept the equation that the Tokhari are the Yushi, then you are also forced to accept the fact you have to accept and look at the Chinese historical records and what they say. And this is a Chinese historical record saying that, hey, yeah, I don't know about any Bactrians, but I see the Tokhari and the Yushi people here. I don't know about them. So just, I could be wrong. It could be wrong, but it just makes you think like, was this a manufactured history right here? Or manufactured people that are just put in place, or did they actually exist? We'll see. Again, but suffice to say that the Tokhari are the Yushi. They are one and the same people. They are one and the same. One's sedentary, one's nomadic in the sense that they move, but they are one and the same people. Like they're not even like saying like they would go into at least physical descriptions, and they're not even doing that. They're just saying, one does this and one do that, but they're the same. And I'm pretty sure they could tell the difference between a Bactrian and a Tokhari or Tokharian. They can tell the difference because if he says he's seeing no Bactrians, which are Greeks, and he just sees nothing but the Tokhari, who are Afro-Asiatic, they're Shem, Israelites. It gives some food for thought to think like, okay, there's some foul play at work here. Some, again, revisionist history, historical revision. Okay, the next one. These areas at this time of history, all researchers agree in identifying them with the Tokhari, the city of Thogara with Ganso, and the Thagaran or Ithagaran mountain with Nanshan. Oh, literally next page. Whoops. Okay, my bad. Even the Buddhist monk and translator Kumarajiva, 1st century AD, directly translate the word Tokhara as lesser Yushi. Huh. So a Buddhist monk living in the 1st century AD literally translated the name Tokhari to lesser Yushi. One in the same people. They are one and the same. One and the same people. And in their ancient history, the Yushi and the Tokhari are inseparable. Even before the Yushi left Central Asia under the pressure from the Xiongnu in 160 BC. So they're inseparable. Their name being literally translated by a monk living in that relatively near the time period where the kingdom existed, the Kushan Empire. Tokhari being lesser Yushi. You can't make this shit up. You really can't. According to Chinese sources from the Han period, Sinites, The Yushi first lived between the city of Dunhuang, Dunhuang, which did not exist at the time, and Kilian Mountains. As to the location of the latter, there is no common agreement as to whether it is Nanshan or the Chinese Tianshan, but in any case, it is clear that at the time, the Yushi's dominance was spread onto the large territories including the entire Kashgaria Tarim Basin and Hesse Gansu corridor. This is confirmed by Chinese historians of pre-Han times. So, literal China before the Han Chinese were in active rulership. This is recorded before them even in rulership. So it, nigga, come on, man. Problem. Oh crap. Whoops. Okay, my bad, folks. It went dark. My bad. At least my screen did. Whoops. But come on, you can't make this up. In which ancestors of the Yushi are mentioned under the name Yushi, with options as Jade people. They mined jade and controlled its export to China, where it was always an outstanding value, meaning that the region of the Khotan was already part of the Yushi ancestors' realm. Huh. No, I did. Side note, I did decide to look up see if jade actually did exist in the Bible, and essentially, it's a yes or no. I think they well it says that it's supposed to be one of the 12 stones on the ephod. I think I'm saying that correctly. It's supposed to be one of the 12 stones on the ephod, and either it was literal jade or jasper of a greenish yellow hue that mimics jade. But either way, it's. I mean, you can find it. It is mentioned to have existed, or it's mentioned in the Old Testament. I'm going to do a video on that later. But so I mean, it makes sense. It does. I mean, where else would they get jade? It's not no. It's not we're in a. Anyway, let me stop detracting. Point is, boom. In the same area east of Khotan, the Buddhist pilgrim Xuanzang, 7th century AD, saw the ruins of the settlements of ancient Tuholo, and an even earlier source, 3rd century BC, knows ancient Daxia very well in these localities. This shows that the people of ancient Daxia were, for the Chinese of the Tang era, the Tokhari, Tuholo, who lived not only in Bactria but also in Kashgaria. In both areas, they lived as a settled urban population. The ancient authors also talk about the Tokhari in the same area when writing about the period prior to the Yushi migration to Bactria. Their records go as far as to Apollodorus of Artemida, first and second and first centuries BC. That always got me mixed up. And Megas, Megasthenes, 4th and 3rd centuries BC, and the latter mentions that the Tokhari mined the jade. So they've been doing it for they've been doing it for mm, centuries. They were mining jade. They knew what it was. They were mining it. So I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just saying, at least to me, it makes a lot more sense now. Jade being one of the stones on the ephod, and they knew where to find and mine jade, being in the right area to do it. On top of that, hey, come on, man. The name Tokhari is also mentioned in connection with the cities of northern Kashgaria located in the Tarim Valley at the southern foothills of the Chinese province. Our page cuts off, but yeah. So again, all in all, the Yushi and Tokhari are one and the same people. So they are one and the same. Translates as Alesha Yushi and Tuholo. Tuholo right here. Again, where did I say that at? So literally, come on, it's right there. You can't make this up. Next, they spoke a Semitic language. Now, they had spoke a language derived from Aramaic, which is a Semitic Afro-Asiatic language. It is not agreed upon, but we can all guess the reason why it's not. It wasn't Phoenician. It wasn't Egyptian. It wasn't a Sinai language. If it's an Aramaic language, it's Afro-Asiatic. It's Shemitic. It's not Shem. Isn't come on? It's just they're just purposely making things confusing. And you can see the characters right there. I don't know how big it is on screen, but you can see them. Probably could have blown it up bigger. It being displayed under the Egyptian language branch would be illogical considering Egyptian is a Hamitic language which is both Proto-Semitic and in which both Proto-Semitic and Phoenician fall under. Yeah, Aramaic isn't Egyptian. It is not. So that's just purpose wordplay and games that they're doing, misinformation. The Tokhari language. It is known as a dead language. It can be dated as far back as 4th century AD, existing in the same time frame as late antiquity. It consisting of three possible languages with differing purposes as seen on the right. The rediscovered manuscripts record two or the discovered manuscripts record two closely related languages called Tokharian A, also East Tokharian or Turfanian, Tokharian B, West Tokharian or Kuchian. Kuchian, my guess is probably Kushan or Kushan, the Kushan Empire, my guess. The subject of the text suggests that Tokharian A was a more archaic and used as a Buddhist liturgical language. So my guess probably scriptural language that they're using it for, while Tokharian B was more actively spoken in the entire area from Turfan in the east to Tumshuk in the west, or Tumshuk in the west. A body of loanwords and names found in Prakrit documents from the Lapner Basin has been dubbed Tokharian C. Koranian. A claimed find of 10 Tokharian texts or Tokharian C texts written in Kharoshthi have been discredited. I'm gonna check that out because I'm not sure about that, but again, boom, this is the language. The oldest extant manuscripts in Tokharian B are now dated to the 5th and even 4th. Bleh, are now dated to the 5th and even late 4th century AD, making it a language of late antiquity contemporary with Gothic, Classical Armenian, and Primitive Irish. We know that the original Irish were Negro and more or less Israel, so keep that in mind. Boop. The Yushi people in the Kushan Kingdom and State. The Yushi people would go on to establish the Kushan Kingdom from the lands of Bactria and beyond. We should keep in mind that these Israelites weren't always seemingly righteous or sin-free, as idolatry was apparent from the influence of other nations. So, you could very well, the Greeks could have also very well been there for next slides I'm about to show in a minute, so perhaps, more likely. Going off the page, it's probably too small to read unless you got a bigger screen. The second tradition is reproduced in Pompeius Trogus, who states that Bactria and Sogdiana were captured by Scythian tribes of the Saruke and the Asiae. Saruke, Sakai, Saka, Asiae, Asianoi, Asianae, so era Asianese. So they're saying their names without saying their names. They're just hiding them. Trogus is perhaps closer to the original forms. He says nothing about crossing the river. Okay, wait. I forgot this was a repeat slide, so yeah, never mind. This is you read this slide. My bad, folks. uh, anyway, yeah, they went on to establish the Kushan Kingdom, the Kushan Empire. That I do want to do a video on and research that, but it's for another time. Boop. Now, her worship by the Kushan Empire, as referred by the prophets, she was worshipped by The Yushi people and those who lived among them take note of non-Iranian. Safe to say her name is just a little shortening of her former name, nothing erroneous about it. Explain why Kushan was also destroyed later on. Destroyed, conquered, same thing. They got beamed. The worship of Nana, the Bactrian goddess. Nana was an ancient Eastern Iranian goddess worshipped by Bactrians, Sogdians, Khwarezmians, and as well as by non-Iranian Yushi. Now, didn't they essentially say that the Yushi people were essentially part of the Eurasian people, who are essentially part, or who were the predecessors to Iranian tribes? So they kind of just, again, they were saying it's so, eh, literally, it just straight up says they're non-Iranian. So it just supports the entire video topic and point even further. That's all I'm saying. It really does, including Kushans as well as the head of the respective pantheons. She was derived from the earlier Mesopotamian goddess Nanaya. It attempts to connect her with Inanna Ishtar. Instead depend on the erroneous notion that the latter was identical to Nanaya, which is considered outdated. So it kind of, I don't know, that part right there doesn't. This is some. They really are trying to lead you astray and kind of confuse you and make you sit not connect the dots together. I mean, Inanna, not come on. You just literally remove the I. Call it a day. She was regarded as an astral deity, and Sogdian art, was depicted representations. She was depicted representations of the sun and moon. Sun and moon worship. The left or the right? Oh man. You can't make this up. Kushan emperors additionally associated her with royal power. Who's preaching against this kind of worship? Was it I think it was Jeremiah who was preaching against this. I could be wrong. It was Jeremiah or Isaiah, one of those two. But again, man, you wonder why Kushan was destroyed. In Sogdia, she might have also developed an otherwise unattested warlike aspect, as evidenced by murals of showing her in battles against demons. Okay. She was seemingly associated with the Sogdian counterpart of Tistria, Tish, who might have been regarded as her spouse. You can't just make like, look at that. Her name right here, Nana, Inanna, Ishtar. Okay, ignore that. That's BS. They're literally one the same. Like, come on, it's literally one the same. Outdated? No, they just changed it to nah. Very informative. I'm gonna say that. Just seeing that's like, yeah. All because they strayed from the Most High Ishi Eloha Haya Haya. All because he did that. Man, he just praise to the Most High. The Jushi people. So that last, basically, I just finished up with the Yushi. Now we're moving on to the Jushi people, as I stated earlier in this video, right? So now to start with the Jushi people. It is stated that they were one of the Tocharian peoples and even had spoken their language. Now, second point, as we seen prior, Tochari equals Yushi, and the Yushi equal the Sakai people, and that the Sakai Saka people are the Israelites. It is that simple to follow. Remember that the Tochari language is Semitic, which is Afro-Asiatic, Afro peoples. We're gonna go over this one more time. And now, to start with the Jushi people, it is stated that they were one of the Tocharian peoples and even had spoken their language. Boom. As we have seen prior, Tochari equals Yushi, and the Yushi Sakai, and the Sakai peoples, or the Israelites, it is that simple to follow. So boom, bam, beep, boop, bop, bang, beep, boop. It is that simple to follow. Remember that the Tochari language is Semitic, which is Afro-Asiatic Afro peoples. I'm gonna blow up this map in the next slide, but I'm pretty sure I got this from Wikipedia. So Jushi from 108 BC to 450 AD. The Jushi kingdom and contemporary polities of continental Asia circa 400 AD. Kingdom. Capital Jiaohe. 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 I can't pronounce that. Not yet. Government monarchy. I'm side note, I'm pretty sure Lex definitely had covered this, or he covered either it was the Yushi or the Jushi people. I mean, they're one and the same anyway, but I saw one of his older videos. I know he credit to him, like, cause it stuck with me seeing that. History: established vassal for the Tang dynasty, 60 BC. Established only BC. Destroyed by the Northern Lang, who are connected to the Shungnu. I'm pretty sure I put that in here, but they are a branch of the Shungnu people, so same old enemies, literally. The Jushi may have been one of the Tocharian peoples and had spoken one of the associated languages. So y'all remember all the slides I just showcased you that Yushi, that the Tochari are a branch of the Yushi people, that the Yushi people are the Sakai peoples, and that the Sakai peoples are the Israelites. It is it's right there. Like it's literally right there, and they're just sent boom. Tocharian is a Shemitic language. Shemitic is Afro-Asiatic Afro peoples. The Tochari and the Yushi, they were called Asian people, the Asianese, the Asianoi, the Asiate. Like it. Oh man, you can't make this up. Okay, next. Here's a zoomed in map. Pardon me. Now, the last map was about 1,000 years prior in the 400 BC. So this is 480. So you have the Samoyeds. I have no idea who those are. Not yet. The Huns. We know who those are. The Byzant Rome. That's just Rome. Straight up Rome right here. The Moroi. Axum. Hymar. Sasanian. The Killerites. The Afrigides. Sargat. The Shionites. Shionites, that's interesting. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm gonna look that up. The Shionites. The Western satraps. Vakatakas. The Gupta Empire. Funan. Champa. The Eastern Jin. The Northern Wei. Gogu. Goguryeo. Korea. Tungus. The Rowan Khaganate. The Northern Liang. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I shouldn't cover that up. My apologies, but I think this is the Fuyuan or the Shumion. I mean, y'all can look this up. Tocharians, the Jushi. So you got the Turks, the Kyrgyz, Slavs, Paleo-Siberians. Yeah, crap. The Kokel. But look at that. The Jushi and Tocharians. Now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I can go back and look earlier in the video to see the slide where I have the older map of the Yushi people, but they're literally in the same spot. They're in the same area. And even further so, Jushi's right here, and you have the Tocharians. Jushi, Tocharians. Tocharians are the Yushi people. So it's even in the name, man. The letter J didn't exist, so they were just calling them the Yushi people, which is the same name as the Yushi people. They're the same people, is what I'm saying. It's not unbroken, but it's a continuous chain or continuous line of the Israelites in Asia. They are it's literally the same name. Or if you want to be like really blunt, I mean Jew, Judean, Jew, Jushi, Jew. Like, come on, bada bing, bada boop. Yeah, come on. All right, next. More information on the Jushi. They were a very agricultural people who had plenty of livestock, with no swine along of. They were a very agricultural people who had plenty of livestock, with no swine along of that it seems, who also lived in tents. So they were very agricultural, had plenty of livestock, which includes shepherds, cattle, you name it, or not shepherds, sheep, cattle, lamb, you name it. They had no swine because swine isn't mentioned, and they lived in tents. That sounds like Israel, man. I don't know what to tell you, but that's Israel. Like they, you don't make that. Come on, man. Come on, Israelites. They were proficient with bows and arrows. Wasn't Ephraim? It was either Israel as a whole or Ephraim. I think was supposed to, or I think Israel was supposed to know every weapon of war. It's just like the longbowmen of Britain. They were proficient with bows and arrows. Hey, come on. You can't make that up, man. Come on. Man, you can say the same, oh, Mongolians. Yeah, forget all that. Anyway, boop. They were professional bows and arrows. They had been under the dominion of the Shungnu, who were the ones who drove out the majority of the Yushi beforehand. Meaning, a lot of them who didn't leave essentially became under dominion of the Shungnu. They became a vassal state, unfortunately. According to J.P. Mallory and Victor H. Mayer, the earliest accounts of the Jews report them to have lived in tents, followed the grasses and waters, and had considerable knowledge of agriculture. They had owned cattle, horses, camels, sheep, and goats. No mention of swine or pigs, unlike a lot of other cultures who literally lived off that kind of stuff. So it's like, they also were proficient with bows and arrows. Huh. Man, they literally mentioned camels before pigs, and there's no mention of pigs. So I mean, like that's. I know Japheth loves some fucking swine. I know they do. So just seeing that's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, okay. Jushi and the kingdom of Kroran were linked in the account of Shangqian in 113 BC, in part because they were both under the control of the Shungnu. Now, my apologies for the snap. Didn't we just read about Zhangqian, my apologies. Didn't we just read about this dude who I think and it was 130, no, it was 128 BC. I go back and look at the or look at the previous slides in the video. He went to he visited Bactria. Right, he visited Bactria and met the Tokari. And now you have him probably here again, I think, was that 15 years? 15 years later, he goes and sees the kingdom of Jushi. And notes that they were both under the control of the Shungnu. And thinking back to the Tokarian language in the other script, Tokarian Sea was also known as Koranian. Come on, man! It literally all connects. It is a web, is a net of truth. It all connects. It's all caught up. In about 60 BC, the Han, ruled at the time by Emperor Xuan, defeated the Shungnu forces at the Battle of Jushi during the Han-Shungnu War. Afterwards, the main part of the Jushi lands was divided into two states: a southern area controlled by the Han, who referred to it as Nearer Jushi or Interior Jushi, and a northern area known to the Han as Further Jushi, Posterior Jushi, that was dominated by the Shungnu. Nearer Jushi was administered by the Han from the capital Jiaohe, 16 kilometers from the site of modern Turpan. The capital of further Jushi appears to have been called Yuli or Yulai and was located about 10 kilometers north of Jimasha, 200 miles north of Jiaohe. The Jushi never regained their independence. Unfortunate. So again, subservient, slaved, under vassal, you name it. I mean, boom, boom, bop. They were a vassal state. They're tributaries. Fortunate. Now, the Jushi's end in disappearance. As the Han dynasty defeated the Xiongnu previously, they had assumed control of the Jushi and their lands as seen in the previous slide. The northern Liang, who were related to the Xiongnu, had later destroyed the Jushi state and seized the capital of Jiaohe in 450 AD. Afterwards, the Jushi people were forgotten or just so like there's really no mention of them afterwards, or if there is, it's very sparse or not at all really. I'm gonna do a part 2 in this video, but barely. They're barely mentioned. After this point, basically forgotten. The Jushi, Chinese Jushi, sometimes pronounced Cheshi, Gushi, were a people probably associated with the Subeshi culture who established the kingdom during the first millennium BC in the Turpan Basin, modern Xinjiang, China, or Xinjiang, China. The kingdom included the area of Ading Lake in the eastern Tianshan Range. During the late 2nd and early 1st century BC, the area was increasingly dominated by the Han dynasty and the northern neighbors of the Jushi, the Xiongnu, and became one of the many minor states of the western regions of the Han Dynasty, China. In 450 AD, the northern Liang destroyed the state of Jushi and occupied its capital city Yakoto. Jiaohe, later known as Yakoto or in Yago, was destroyed in a Mongol attack in the 13th century. So that kind of now either they're related to the Mongols or they're not related. It's a maybe. I mean, all brothers fight, so they could be related to the Mongols or proto-Mongols, or I don't know. But I do know that they're a barbarian tribe related to the Xiongnu. Xiongnu being known as Eurasian or Indo-European or predecessors. So I could be wrong. Maybe I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna research that. But yeah. So essentially, after this point, the Jushi essentially just vanish in 450 AD. So roughly what? According to the current time, which could very well be wrong, timeline that we do have that I have right now, that's about what, like damn near 500. No, it's much longer than that. It's like 15. It's 1,574 years ago. So about a millennia and a half ago, 1,574 years approximately, it was destroyed and they basically just vanished. Now, a lot of things could happen at that time, so I wouldn't be too surprised. But it could have happened a lot sooner. Probably, maybe. But no mention of the Jushi, who are the Yushi, or who are the Dokarians, who are the Yushi. The Yushi are the Sakai, and the Sakai are the Israelites. So these were Israelites in Asia, and their history basically just vanishes in 450. The Jushi and Kane Basam. Now this one I just found very interesting. A gravesite being attributed to a man, a part of the Jushi culture or an older culture known as the Subeshi, which more than likely is the Yushi Tokari. Come on, they are the same people. Like it's 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 not an opinion. It's just I'm showing you the evidence, so it's facto. Boom. Cultivated for psychoactive purposes like aid and divination. If Kane Basam is present in scripture and with the people of the book, and you've seen evidence that these are the same people, it all makes sense. I know I could have said that, but nah, it just literally all makes sense. Now I'm going to the article. A 27-year-old grave discovered in 2008 at Yanghai Tombs, an ancient cemetery, has been attributed to the Jushi or a precursor culture. Remember what I said? The remains belonged probably to a shaman, probably a priest, Near the shaman's head and foot, or could just be some regular dude who just loves weed. Near the shaman's head and foot were a large leather basket and wooden bowl filled with 789 grams of dried cannabis, superbly preserved by climatic and burial conditions. An international team demonstrated that this material contained THC, the psychoactive component in cannabis. The cannabis was clearly cultivated for psychoactive purposes rather than as a fiber for clothing or as food. It has been employed as a medical agent or an aid in divination. This is the oldest known use of cannabis as a pharmacological agent. In the extremely dry conditions, alkaline soil acted as preservatives, allowing a team of scientists to carefully analyze the stash, which still looked green, though it had lost its distinctive color. So, the oldest known use for pharmaceutical purposes. Sheesh. What was that to you? Oh man, you can't make this up. Oh man. Oh, my apologies. Now continuing. Okay, we're nearing the end. The Subeshi culture. The Subeshi culture is somewhat seen as a mysterious culture when in reality it's just an offshoot of the Yushi people. It quite literally inhabits the same land area of the Jushi people, who are right next to again the Yushi people. Check earlier in the video. Okay, this is the other map. So if y'all could go back and find the Jushi map I shown, this is the map I wanted to show later on. This is the one that's 1,000 years before that map. So that map was 4th century AD. This is 3rd century BC. So 1,011, get 1,000 years give or take before that current map, and you're gonna see it's the same area, same exact area. If anything, this is purposely kept an open secret to hide the fact that they're all the same. So the Subeshi people, they're seen as mysterious. In reality, they are just the Yushi people under a different name. They're just hiding names, changing. They're just making shit up, changing all sorts of shit. That's literally what they do. I'm gonna read the screenshot from Wikipedia. The Subeshi culture, 1100 to 100 BC. Also, also keep in mind that way earlier in the video I said that, or I shown that the Yushi people can, at least in historical Chinese accounts, can be traced back to the seventh. To what was it? Was 7th century BC. It was way back. I'm talking. It was way back. They traced them back. So like, keep that in mind. Okay, maybe not like 100. Oh, keep that in mind. I'm just saying, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Anyway, the Subeshi culture, also known as the Shubishi or Subexi culture, is an Iron Age culture from the area of Shanshan County, Turfan, Xinjiang, at the eastern edge of the Tarim Basin. The Subeshi culture contributes some of the later period Tarim mummies, probably Egyptians, maybe Egypt. I don't know, maybe, or it's a maybe, probably not. Mummies are interesting. It might be associated with the Cheshi state, Chushi, Jushi kingdom, known from historical Chinese sources. So they know they're related. They know. The culture includes three closely related cemeteries: the Subeshi Cemetery, the Shengjiandian Cemetery, and the Yanghai Cemetery. No, it won't say this on the next slide, but I'm gonna read the bottom of the map and I'm gonna blow it up or zoom in. The general location of the Subeshi culture next to the Sakha realm in contemporary Asian polity circa 325 BCE. So this map is 1,000 years before the other map. Let's look at it. Okay, let's just take a look, right? You have the Moro, the Sabians, the Scythians. Greece and shit's over here, right? Look at that. Look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that map. You got the Scythians, the the Saromatians, the Dahe, the Massagete, the Gorokovo, Sargat. I'm pretty sure I've seen that twice now. The Sakas, the Korgantas, the Pazirik, the Tagars, the Sagli, the Chanman, the Slab grave culture. I'm gonna check that out. I have no idea what that is. I'm gonna check that out. The Danghu, they only see the Jin over here 1,000 years later. They're in Korea 1,000 years ago. Then 1,000 years later, they're over here. And what we see is the Zhao dynasty, the Dian culture, the Nanda Empire, and the Ordos culture. We'll check that out. Sha Jing, but look at that. The Yushi, the Sebushi. Now the other map said the Tokarians and the Jushi right here. So it was the Jushi and the Tokarians, but now it's inverse. The Sebushi and the Yushi. So they existed at one in the same time period. Same time period. Slapped up next to each other. Like they Tokari is right here 1,000 years later. And Jushi's right here. So literally this fucking they all the same people. They are all the same. There is no they are literally all the same. At most it's probably like going from like Connecticut to Philadelphia to New York to some then some one but anyway, bang boop bop. Look at that. They're all in the same area. Same people. And I purposely left them out. The Macedonian Empire. So bang boop bop. They got up to here. Man, Alexander the Great had ass. Look at that. Just come on, you can't make this up, man. They are one and the same people. There's no difference. They are one and the same. It is stated that the Sebushi, I don't know, I've been Sebushi, the Subeshi, it is stated that the Subeshi culture is one of the possible predecessors to the Tokarians. Didn't it say that the Tokarians mean lesser Yushi people, confirmed by a Chinese? No, it was translated by a Buddhist monk in the 4th century AD, and that they are inseparable, and literally are the Yushi people. And then saying that the Sebushi culture is apostle. So wouldn't that make the Subeshi people, the Yushi, or the Yushi, they're one and the same people? And old historical accounts saying that they've been there since time immemorial. So they are the same. They are literally one and the same people. The Subeshi culture are the Yushi. They're one and the same. Come on. Let me finish this up. It is stated that the Subeshi culture is the possible predecessors to the Tokarians. They also said that the Jushi people come from the Subeshi culture. The Jushi also speak Tokarian, and we know that the Tokari are always literally with the Yushi. They're one and the same people. Now, before I read my second point, y'all probably already read it, but I'm going to read this first, then I'm going to read that. The Subeshi culture is a candidate for the Iron Age predecessors of the Tokarians. The material culture of the Sebushi culture is very similar to that of Saka sites. Now, these are the names, yeah, it don't matter what those names are. Or, I shouldn't say that, but that's not the focus. The focus is to using the name Saka as Arzan or Tasmola, but is also known to have spread across northern Chinese steppes from Xinjiang to the Korean Peninsula. I'm gonna do a future video on that because there are accounts of the Jushi being in Korea, but that's for another time. But anyway, back to it. Particularly through bronze weapons, horse harnesses, and ornaments. The Subeshi site of Yanghai yielded what may be the world's oldest known horse saddle, already displaying many characteristics of today's modern saddles, for which a radiocarbon date of 727 to 396 BCE probability range has been obtained. I don't know about radiocarbon testing, but this contemporaneous of this is contemporaneous of possibly older than the previous oldest saddle from the Scythian Pazir culture site of the Tukta Barrow number 1, 430 to 420 BCE. Knotted carpet with a colorful wave-like motifs were dated to 700 BCE and are now the oldest known knotted carpet in the world before the 4th century BCE Pazir carpets. Scythian-style bows were also discovered in Subeshi. The technical sophistication of these bows suggests intense technological transfer between the Sakha areas and the Subeshi culture areas. No other Tarim Basin area benefited from this technological transfer, which is supplemented by some adaptation by the Subeshi people. The bows were slightly bigger and used lacquer as an original, or lacquer as an original compounds, suggesting technological contact with China as well. Pardon for being frank, but my nigga, they Chinese. They are literally East Asian going into Central Asia. They one in the same culture, one in the same people. Going off of historical Chinese accounts, the Chinese said that they were there since time immemorial, the Tocharians, and the Tocharians are the Yushi. They were there from the very beginning, from the Gansu province. And even looking at modern research, just trying to give them a different name. The Subeshi people, no, they're different. No, they're literally the same people, just different fucking name. Pardon my language. Forgive me. Different friggin' names, all the same people. They're literally all the same. There is no difference. All the same people. My dude, come on. They are all the same people. Come on. Now, the last point. The Jushi people equals the Tocharians. The Tocharians equal the Sebushi culture. The Sebushi culture equals the Yushi people. The Yushi people equal the Sakai peoples. The Sakai peoples are known to be the Israelites. Bang, boop, beep, bim, bop, weep, whoop. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. They're all one and the same. They're all. So literally, this is just Israelites of the East. We know about the ones who went west, but now we also know about the ones who were in the East. And these could have very well been the ones who were taken either into exile or they were taken to exile later on. Regardless, they got moved because they're no longer there now. They got moved out. Because again, the Jews, it says they disappeared in 450 AD. They were just gone. From, and there's no mention of what happened to them in China. So either they got pushed into Africa, maybe, or they got pushed out and they went to the Bering Strait, or they're regardless they were removed. So again, in the very beginning, we talked about how the Sakasake there was a split. Well, again, it just kept ones who went west, ones who went east, or stayed in the east. Really, they just stayed home. Ones who just were left venturing outward. it right there, man. It's just right there. The Jushi are the Tocharians are the Sebushi, or the Subeshi. The Subeshi. I've been saying that wrong this entire time. Oh my goodness. Anyway, my apologies. The Subeshi culture are the Yushi people. The Yushi people are the Sakai people, and the Sakai are the Israelites. Boom, bada bing. They lived in tents. They were experts in agriculture. They were nomadic, but also sedentary. Great with the horse and bow, or bow and arrow. They mined jade. They had a whole priestly order. Three distinct, like it. This is all. This is all the evidence I found, and I'm pretty sure this definitely supports the point. Like again, I read it to y'all. Y'all can read it yourselves. Y'all can just pause and read each page. You might have to just screenshot and zoom in. Sometimes apologies, but all the evidence right there. Boom. Is there anything else after this? I don't remember. Oh yeah, last one. Now, Asia mentioned in the Apocrypha, or the non-canonical books made by these councils of the church and all that crap. Asia is mentioned as one of the nations alongside Egypt, Babylon, and Syria. From what can be inferred is that they are more or less literal neighbors that border each other. Second book Esdras, verse 16, or 2 Esdras 16:1. Yeah, not that. Ooh. Woe be unto thee, Babylon, and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. Gird yourselves up with cloths of sack and hair, bewail your children, and be sorry. For your destruction is at hand, a sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire sent among you, and who may quench it? Asia. So they weren't talking. I know some sources say they're just being what they say metaphorical, but no, in literal sense they name drop Asia. You think that with Eastern Asia being as far away as it is, I'm pretty sure in this context they're literally talking about the Eastern nations. Yeah. Also, interesting fact: looking at the Strong's Concordance, bewail means to mourn. So mourn your children. Hmm. But yeah, so Asia literally mentioned in the Apocrypha, the Book of Esdras. Also, damn, I forgot to blow that up in terms of size. Not blow it. I forgot to make it bigger, but you can see right here. You probably can't see it too well because I didn't make it big enough. But it's on Wikipedia. That's Bactria right there during the reign of or the Ottoman Empire. Nah, Bang Boo Bop. It's right there. So it was within his realm of influence and control. Yeah. Alright, conclusion. With supported historical evidence that has been shown, the conclusion can be made that the Israelites do come from Asia, specifically East Asia. They come from the East Asia. They're East Asian. We're East Asian. Again, they're literally calling us Asians. The Greeks, the Asianoi, the Asianae, the Asio, Asians. Like, you take that from Greek, you put it into English, it's Asian. I don't know, like, you drop the oi and it's Asian. Like, come on. So, yeah. It does go to also support the fact that we are also Semitic, meaning Afro-Asiatic. With this video showcasing Afro peoples having extensive histories in Asia. My guy, Asia. It's literally Asia, man. Like I can't make this up. It's Asia. The people of the Orient, Asia. Also, I know in China they don't even call China China. The Han Chinese they call it like Guangzhou. They call it some weird name. It's not even called China over there. Like how Japan is called Japan, they call it Nippon. China is called I think Guangzhou, meaning Middle Kingdom or center. So I'm gonna find that video. It was from a YouTuber I was watching, but yeah. Anyway, future video topics to be discussed. Ooh, my apologies. Mahayana. I was not trying to butcher that, and I screwed up. Oh, forgive me. Mahayana Buddhism and the Israelites. Now, I know Lex had covered this in one of his older videos about the Buddhist schools originally being supposed to be righteous places and whatnot. But the fact that it's one of the, I think it's one of the three branches of Buddhism, and it literally has the Most High's name, Haya Haya, and that it's just like you can't make this up. You really can't make this up. I'm just saying, you really can't. You can't make it up. But yeah, Mahayana Buddhism, and the Israelites. The kingdom of Kartli and Georgia. I do want to discuss that, because there's a connection between the kingdom of Kartli and Georgia and the English and the Anglos. There's definitely a connection between the two. Possible migration into Britain, maybe, or I'm gonna research that, but there's definitely a connection. Looking at the flags, check out the flags because I was gonna do a video on that. Like they got the same flag, they do. Or ancient Georgia and England have they got the same flag, so keep that in mind. And last one is Shangdi and the Jade Emperor possibly being the god of China. I got one book about a mythology, and it kind of maybe not so much the Jade Emperor thing, so that might be a dub. But the Shangdi though, they might have known him as a different name in those days. So I'm once that possibly might have been the Most High in China under a different name, or the name that they called him, the wrong name, but or title. It's something, but I'm gonna research that. But the next topics I plan on doing, I'm probably gonna do a part two of this video because there's a lot, not a lot, but I know there's more evidence I can dig up and probably find out on. But yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy the presentation or enjoyed it. Hope you're able to find some useful information out of it, and that I hope you at least learned something today. I mean, just about it in general. Again, that this would be the Eastern branch or the homebrew joke on Hebrew branch of the Israelites over there. Or the ones of the mainland, their homeland in Asia, land of Shem. I mean, the colonization. I can't get over that. And also the name Tatarstan being one of it's a stand country. I don't know if it's still labeled on the maps nowadays, but I'm gonna research that. But I'll probably make a part two of this sometime soon. But hope you guys do enjoy the video. You find it useful, and it makes sense, at least to me. But again, don't forget to check out Lex. Check out his stuff and his information, his videos. And he's been a very impactful teacher. I'm gonna say that. Man's definitely a scholar. But yeah, I plan on doing some more videos though. I got some things lined up. But y'all take care, be easy and be safe. Blessings upon blessings to you all, and praises to the Most High. Ishi Eloha, Haya Haya. Glory and praises to His great name, Hayah Hayah. See you guys later.